Hello everyone. Today we'll dive into swimming lessons by Rohinton Mistry, a touching, darkly humorous story that explores the themes of displacement, cultural dissonance, and the immigrant experience. Set in Toronto, that is in Canada, but also it is deeply rooted in the memories of Bombay, which is now called as Mumbai. This narrative blurs the lines between the past and the present, much like the protagonist's struggle to stay afloat in the unfamiliar waters. Now, before beginning, let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever felt like an outsider caught between two worlds, neither fully here nor there? This is the heart of swimming lessons, where an elderly Parsi man, his name is Firoz Shah Bagh, he navigates the icy currents of Canadian life while clinging to the warmth of his Bombay memories. And by the end of this lesson, we'll be able to examine three things: how Mistry portrays the immigrant's sense of alienation, and second thing is how we analyze the symbolism of water and swimming as the metaphors for adaptation. Dear students, you know what is adaptation. Adaptation means setting ourselves to a foreign or alienated country. And third one, reflect on the story's commentary on home, identity, and generational divides. So, let's talk a little about Rohinton Mistry, our author of the swimming lessons. Rohinton Mistry was born in 1952. He is one of the Canada's most celebrated authors, known for his richly detailed and emotionally resonant portrayals of the Parsi life and the immigrant experience. And Rohinton Mistry was born in Bombay, India. And Mistry grew up in a Parsi Zoroastrian family, a community that has played historical role or significant role in India's cultural and economic landscape. His upbringing in a close-knit Parsi neighborhood deeply influenced his writing, and much of his works are drawn from traditions, struggles, and everyday lives of the Parsi community. Mistry's early education was in Bombay, where he developed a keen interest in literature and storytelling, but he never took it as a serious career. But he moved to Canada in 1975. Then onwards, he began to pursue his writing career as a serious one. After immigrating to Canada, Mistry enrolled at the University of Toronto, where he studied English and philosophy. And he also worked in many odd jobs to support himself, because, dear students, you know that when you move to a foreign country, you have to support yourselves by doing any job. And same thing even Mistry did. He worked on many jobs to support himself. He began writing short stories which quickly gained recognition for their vivid storytelling and their emotional depth. His first major literary success came with the publication of his short story collection, whose name is Tales from Firoz Shah Bagh, which was published in 1987. This was shortlisted for the Governor General's Award. The collection, which also includes the story Swimming Lessons, this is set in Parsi housing complex in Bombay, and this explores the themes of family and community and also the challenges of the urban life. These stories are deeply autobiographical, reflecting Mistry's own experiences growing up in Bombay and his subsequent migration to Canada. Mistry's works are characterized by their meticulous attention to detail, richly drawn characters, and exploration of universal themes such as identity, belonging, and the human condition. His writing has one more significant feature, that is, it often blends realism with subtle symbolism. It creates a story that is both deeply personal and universally resonant. So, it appeals to us as a person and to whole universe in general. Despite living in Canada, for most of his adult life, Mistry's works remain firmly rooted in the cultural and social fabric of India, particularly the Parsi community, to which our Mistry belongs to. Through his writing, Mistry has become a voice for the marginalized and the displaced, offering a poignant exploration of the immigrant experience and the enduring memory of the nostalgia. His contributions to literature have earned him numerous accolades, and his works continue to be celebrated for their emotional depth and social relevance. Let's talk about the summary of the swimming lessons. The swimming lessons by Rohinton Mistry describes the story of an unnamed Parsi immigrant living in a low-rise apartment building in Don Mills, Toronto, that is in Canada. The narrator, who belongs to the working class, reflects on his life in Canada while he is also grappling with the feelings of cultural displacement and nostalgia for his homeland, India. It takes place in the context of immigrant experience, highlighting the challenges of adapting to a new culture while holding on to the memories of the past. The narrator's life in Canada is marked by a sense of isolation and longing for the familiar comforts of his childhood in Bombay. The narrator enrolls in swimming lessons at a local high school, hoping to overcome his fear of water. However, the experience is fraught with anxiety and failure, symbolizing his broader struggles with adaptation and belonging in a foreign land. His inability to swim becomes a metaphor for his inability to fully integrate himself into the Canadian society. Here, dear students, Canada is actually symbolizing the sea, or you can take it as otherwise. The sea is symbolizing Canada, and he is unable to swim, which means he is unable to merge with Canadian society. This is what you have to remember as a key symbol, my dear students. And the story is interwoven with vivid memories of the narrator's childhood in Bombay, particularly his experiences at Chowpatty Beach, which is too polluted to swim in. These memories highlight the power of nostalgia and difficulty of leaving one's past behind. The narrator's reflections on his family, particularly his grandfather, this adds the emotional depth to the story, emphasizing his enduring influence of the cultural heritage. He has a great cultural heritage, and it also has a lot of influence on him. This is represented by his reminiscence of the grandfather. The narrator's observations of his neighbors, including an elderly man in a wheelchair and the building superintendent berth, provided an insight into the immigrant experience and the challenges of aging in a foreign land. The elderly man's death marks a turning point in the story, prompting the narrator to reflect on the cyclical nature of life and the inevitability of change. The story is a poignant exploration of the immigrant experience, capturing the tension between preserving one's cultural identity and assimilating into a new society. At the same time, it also depicts the resilience and hope that sustain the narrator as he navigates the cultural challenges of his new life. Despite his failures, he remains determined to adapt, as seen in his decision to enroll in another swimming class by the end of the story. The story, originally published in Mistry's short story collection, that is named as The Tales from Firozshah Bagh, which is published in 1987. This can be read as a symbolic representation of the struggles faced by immigrants in a new country. The recurring imagery, that is water, even though the water may be represented in different places. For example, Chowpatty beach, which is more polluted, as he is suggesting, or the swimming pool or the bathtub, all these serve as metaphors for life, regeneration and failure. The story ends with the narrator reflecting on the cyclical nature of life and enduring power of memory, leaving the reader with a sense of both melancholy and hope for a better future. Dear students, for the sake of convenience of understanding, let us divide the story into 4 parts. In the first part, in the introductory portion, we are introduced to the unnamed narrator, a Parsi immigrant living in a low-rise apartment building in Don Mills, Toronto. The narrator reflects on his life in Canada, in particular his observations of his neighbors, including an elderly man in a wheelchair. The narrator's tone is reflective and nostalgic as he contrasts his current life in Canada with memories of his childhood in Bombay. The elderly man's presence in the lobby, where he spends most of his time talking to people, serves as a focal point for the narrator's reflections on aging, isolation, and most importantly, the immigrant experience. In this portion, we also come to know the narrator's background and his struggles with cultural displacement. He is a working class immigrant who feels out of place in his new country, as evident by his failed attempts to learn how to swim. The narrator's memories of Chowpatty beach in Bombay, which is too polluted to swim in, this highlight his longing for the familiar comforts of his homeland. The narrator's observations of his neighbors, particularly the elderly man, reveal his sensitivity to the struggles of others as well as his own feelings of the isolation and nostalgia. So, here first part is concluded. Let us move on to the second part. In this part, we learn more about the narrator's neighbors, in particularly the Portuguese woman who serves as the building's unofficial communicator. Through her, the narrator learns about the elderly man's background, including his stroke and his daughter's return to care for him. This section also delves into the narrator's memories of his grandfather, who suffered from Parkinson's disease and osteoporosis. These are very common features of the older generation, and the narrator reflects on the challenges of caring for an elderly family member, as well as the cultural and medical issues faced not only by everybody, but in general by Parsi community, such as the high incidence of osteoporosis and the cases of divorce. This part also introduces the theme of memory and its role in shaping identity. The narrator's recollections of his grandfather and his family in Bombay highlighted the enduring influence of his cultural heritage, how his heritage has influenced him, shaped him. The narrator's guilt over not visiting his grandfather more often added an emotional layer to the story, emphasizing the importance of family and the pain of separation. The narrator's observations of elderly man in the wheelchair further underscores the theme of aging and challenges of growing old in a foreign land. You see, dear students, when a person is growing old in foreign land, it will be very difficult for him to cope up unless he has somebody to take care of him. The narrator is showing the same guilt in this part. So, with this, part 2 is concluded, and now let us move to part 3. This is the central portion of the story where the narrator struggles with cultural displacement and adaptation comes to the forefront. The narrator received a letter from his parents in India which highlights the communication gap between him and his family. His parents' concern for his well-being and their desire to know more about his life in Canada, this came in contrast with the narrator's reluctance to share his details. This reflected actually the tension between preserving one's cultural identity and also assimilating into a new society. Dear students, here actually narrator is not trying to hide anything from his parents, but he is just playing a safe game by not revealing more about his new life to his parents. This part also introduced narrator's failed attempts to learn how to swim, which serve as a metaphor for his broader struggles with adaptation. The narrator's fear of water and his inability to swim, this symbolized the feelings of displacement and also symbolized his difficulty of finding a sense of belongingness in his new country. The narrator's observations of two women sunbathing in a parking lot, this added a layer of irony to the story, as his fantasies about them are shattered when he sees them up close in the dimly lit lobby. This moment underscores the theme of disillusionment and the gap between the perception and reality. This has concluded part 3 of our story. Now, let us move on to part 4, that is concluding part of the story, where the narrator's reflections on his life in Canada has come full circle. The narrator's decision to enroll in swimming lessons, this represented his determination to overcome his fears and to adapt to his new environment. He is actually determined to merge into Canadian society completely. However, his experience in swimming pool is fraught with anxiety and failure as he struggles to overcome his fear of water. The narrator's interactions with the swimming instructor and the other students also highlights few more things, that is challenges of being an immigrant in a predominantly white society, as well as the subtle forms of racism and discrimination that he faced. And this story ends with the narrator reflecting on the recurring symbolism of water in his life. Again, we have seen that water here is represented in 3 areas, that is water from the polluted Chowpatty beach to the swimming pool and to the bathtub. The narrator's decision to take a bath and immerse himself in water, this symbolizes his attempt to confront his fears and also to find a sense of renewal. However, the story ends on an ambiguous note, as the narrator planned to enroll in another swimming class. This suggested one more thing, that is, his struggles with adaptation and belonging are not yet over. They are about to continue. This is what Rohinton Mistry has suggested with this ending of his re-enrolling in the swimming lessons. The passage is significant in number of ways. First, it highlighted the challenges of cultural displacement and the immigrant experience. This is seen through narrator's struggles with adaptation and his longing for his homeland. Secondly, it reflects the resilience and hope that sustain the narrator as he continues to seek new experiences in spite of his number of failures. And at the end, it also served as a critique of societal and cultural barriers faced by a lot of immigrants, while he is also highlighting one more thing, that is enduring power of memory and nostalgia in shaping identity. Let us talk about key themes. First theme is the pool symbolizes Firoz Shah's limbo. This limbo is a word that you have to understand, my dear students. Limbo means it is actually a body that is neither completely submerged nor completely uplifted. In the same way, this pool symbolized Firoz Shah's limbo, neither drowning nor swimming, just treading the water. And second important theme, that is generational divide. His son's insistence on assimilation clashes with Firoz Shah's longing for the past. And third theme, most important theme, is the irony of progress. In chasing the Canadian dream, Firoz Shah loses the warmth of community, gaining only isolation. You see, my dear students, when we are about to progress, the ladder will be in a pyramid form. In the beginning, we will have a lot of people to merge with, but as we progress in life, the number of people who are with us slowly comes down, and this is shown. As he is progressing in his life, he is only facing more and more isolation. And Mistry's genius lies in his subtle details, minute details. For example, take the word, the stiff bristled broom. Firoz Shah uses to clear snow. This actually is a poor substitute for Bombay's monsoon rains. How he interprets Canadian kindness as pity. Every moment that he speaks in this story, this hums with unspoken loss. What is the loss that he is speaking about? He is speaking about the loss of the nativeness, or how he is missing India, the homeland, most importantly. Dear students, now let us talk about the conclusion as we are wrapping up. The swimming lessons is more than a tale of immigrant struggle. It is actually a mirror that is held up to anyone who is ever felt adrift. This is also applicable to you, to me, to anybody who is in this position. Firoz Shah's pool becomes our own, whether we are flailing in the cultural currents, generational gaps, or the simple ache of missing what once was very dear to us, very close to us. Sometimes we held some things very close to our heart and will miss them, and that kind of feelings are depicted in this story. Not everyone learns to swim. Some people just float simply, and maybe that might be enough for this life. This is what kind of compromise that has been shown in this story, Swimming Lessons by Rohinton Mistry. Thank you, my dear students, for your attention.